up with feedback, like, what is your favorite subject? Or I may ask a question that was specifically in the presentation, going back to the reading, where, hey, yes, this could be like several different answers, but if you go back to the reading, you will find the best answer. You know, so I try to make sure whenever I do that, I look at these types of things, look at these types of ideas, and just bring in what I'm supposed to do as a teacher into my training.
Absolutely, because we're all different kind of learners. You know, like I'm a visual learner. If someone gives me a page of work, or even if I have to read something from here, I go and see if there's something on YouTube that's similar, so I can listen to it. I process things differently. And I think, yeah, Frederick, we need to respect the fact that adults are learners as well, and we take our best teaching practice and use it in our training practice. I like that.
Can I just piggyback off something you said there, Frederick, which I think is really
yes, please.
The idea of, you know, honesty, about expecting honesty in feedback. And I used to work for a training company, so there was a period of time there where literally for a couple of years I was doing like hundreds of training things. So we got a lot of feedback, and you will always get someone who's disgruntled about everything. It doesn't matter what it is in life. Like, someone will always complain about something, and that's great that they're being honest, but it's also important that you realize that, like, you know, it's really funny. You can do a training and you can get, you know, like 30 or 40 people, and you'll get like 99% of it will be really positive. Enjoyed the session, it was great, learned so much. And then you get one person who wants to complain about everything. And it's like, it's really easy to fixate on the one person rather than the other 99%. And we do, I used to get really hung up on that. I go, oh, well, they didn't like me. They didn't like what I did. Like, what am I doing wrong? And overlook the fact that, like, everybody else loved it. So I think the honesty thing's really important. You've got to allow people to be honest. And if someone hates it, they hate it. But also keep things in perspective too, you know, like when you do get that negative feedback, because you will.
Oh, yes. And I had that happen on my trainer application, where one was like, oh, your graphics were not that good. And I'm like, I try to look at it. I wouldn't say I try to. I look at it more so glass half full than half empty. Because I was like, what can I do to improve my graphics? Then I started learning more about Giphy and whatnot. Even though, like, for me, my horoscope, I am a straight up Leo. So part of us, we are people pleasers, but then too, I set my limitations as well. Because with some people, they may want you to put all this stuff on your slides. And I'm like, okay, this is getting tacky. So I have to understand that when I present, that I'm also presenting a brand and I'm presenting a style. Like, everybody cannot be Carmen Miranda, and everybody cannot be Amalia Rodriguez. Like, I have my own style, and I'm going to cater more towards a certain audience, but I'm going to do what I can to pull everyone in there.
Yeah, you be you.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Be you, and it's, you know, be transparent. If you make a mistake, you know, like, just be transparent about it. I mean, I'm making lots of mistakes here. I only found out 30 minutes ago I was doing this. I'm cool. But Darren had everything so prepared, and that's his professionalism, and he had to pull out at the last minute. So I could pick up the pieces and I could hopefully give some value back to the people who have come here, because these are the questions here on my other screen. These are all the questions that have been asked in the registration. So, you know, continuing on with poor presentation here, I'm going to leave this like this so I can come in and out of this slide deck. Some people have asked about advice for those who don't have the ideal school work environment to do a training in. What would the best alternatives be? And Darren had some ideas there about group size, face-to-face or virtual. I do a lot of virtual training because that's part of my role in my work. So I don't travel up and down 7 hours up and down the coast to work with teachers. I've been doing virtual work for maybe 10 years now with online courses and now webinars and so forth. But if you are part of a GEG, a Google educator group, that's a great place to be able to offer virtual or training when, you know, the world settles down a little bit, to be able to get together in small groups to have that opportunity. Are there any other comments there about types of training that you want to know more about? So I think we've probably learned a lot over the last 12 months of the trainings that we've been to. And as I say, keep doing a walkabout. You know, like you're there in a place for content, but then you think, how did they organise that? How did they prepare that? How are they going to get feedback from that? You know, like broaden your learning, not just for the content where you are for that training. I
would add one thing to that, if I may. Sorry, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I have an opinion on lots of things. I would say, like, I think there are different types of people who become trainers, and everyone has a different motivation. And there are people who work in a school and they do a trainer course because they want to use the skills they learn as a trainer simply to be better teachers, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there are other people who want to be a trainer because they want to actually, you know, do more training of adults and professional learning experiences for adults and that kind of stuff. If that's you, what I would suggest is, when you're starting out, at least, take every opportunity you can to present anywhere you can. Like, look at conferences that are coming up, look at your local English Teachers Association or Geography Teachers Association, or you know, when opportunities come up at local conferences like EduTech or ULearn or any of those sorts of stuff. If there's an opportunity to present, go and present something. Doesn't matter what it is, just present something. And, you know, speaking from my own experience, you go through a period of time where you're just doing it because you love it and you're volunteering your time. And at some point along that journey, people start offering to pay you for it, which is really weird. And then eventually, suddenly, you know, you start to develop more of an audience and more of a reputation. And the next thing you know, people are actually asking you to present at events and offering you all sorts of opportunities. I know that's how it occurred for me, and I know lots of other people that's how it occurred for them as well. Again, it depends what you want to get out of this. If that's not your bag, then just ignore everything I just said, because maybe I'm just, you know, scaring you off. But for people who really want to do the trainer thing and expand that aspect of their career, just do as much as you can, as often as you can. And you will be amazed at the opportunities that open up to you. I pinch myself sometimes to think how much of the world I've gotten to see because I've been a Google trainer, and the opportunities to travel and go places and speak at conferences and all sorts of things that would have never happened had it not been for things like Trainer and even Innovator.
Absolutely agree. I totally agree with that. Just remember that if you have any training plans, for example, when you want to grow fast, you're going to have to do it alone. When you want to grow big, you're going to have to do it with others. So you will need to look at GlobalGEG, for example. They grew big so fast, primarily because of that, because it's a lot of people working together. So it's really great to be able to network with trainers as well. So yeah, I saw here that there is also a GEG question. So Leslie, would you like to answer that already, or?
Yes, I'll start with that question there. You know, how do I become a GEG leader? You need to be nominated by another GEG leader, and I knew a few, so I said, can you nominate me? And then it goes through a process, and Chris Betcher is part of my process, and I was able to find out probably within a couple of weeks that I was a GEG leader. And then that's actually how GlobalGEG came together, because and Avid and Stephanie Howe, Stephanie Rothstein, Luis Petrus from Colombia, and myself, and Bonnie from Louisiana, you know, we all said, oh, this is great because we're in a PLN together. And we were actually saying, you know, how do you actually become a GEG leader? We said, we don't know. So we asked people, and then we came back together again in a huddle, and then we helped each other, you know, do the big launch. And then other people were saying, can you come and help us? So it was our PLN, our community, that helped us grow. We had no idea that it was going to be, you know, we were going to be doing like 20,000 views and videos and reaching so many people. It was you know, like our YouTube channel is getting a lot of hits. Google marketing said, how did you do this? And we said, COVID helped a lot because people needed this. It wasn't our egos that were pushing us out there, but we had to learn more and more skills, and we helped each other. So becoming a GEG leader certainly puts you in another community group there as well. So developing skills, there were more questions about becoming a successful trainer, and we've talked about that. You know, especially after the event, and Chris has talked about feedback and keeping in touch with your level 1 and level 2 updates. I mean, I think, what is it, every 3 years now you need to recertify. It's always a good idea when there's something new coming out in Google to actually go back and do level 1 and level 2, just to see what the standard is, what are the new things that are happening, because there's no good training on something that's gone out of date 2 months ago.
I was doing training once in Atlanta, Georgia, or just outside Atlanta, and we went to the morning session and we did a session with teachers on Google Classroom, and then we went and had lunch. And I don't know if you remember when Google Classroom made the big change to having the classwork stream. And before that, it didn't have a classwork stream. It would look different. The before lunch session was the old classroom, and the after lunch session we walked in to do it, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, it just looked completely different. And we had to basically learn it ourselves on the fly in order to teach someone else. Hilarious. You'll find all sorts of those moments in this as well, where the product literally changes halfway through a session.
Absolutely. Just be transparent, just rumble the vulnerability, you know, like it happens. And how do you recover? Do you just give up and walk out? What if the internet goes down? I mean, there are, you know, you have to be ready, you know, because whenever I'm talking with teachers and they're relying heavily on internet, I say, what's your backup plan? What's going to happen if something, you know, comes asunder? You know, so we'll becoming...
Dropping something into the chat here just for people that I've found useful, and if you don't know about it, you probably should. It's just the What's New page.
Oh, good.
I mean, talk about change. We changed the name from G Suite to Workspace last week, as you probably know, and I've been having meetings all week and catching myself saying G Suite. It's Workspace.
Yeah.
Right? It's really hard to make that switch. But if you go there, workspace.google.com/what's new, there's actually a list of all the new features that are coming out in Workspace, and there's a button there somewhere where you can subscribe to that, and I think it's the stay in the loop section at the bottom. You can subscribe via email, and it will actually send you an email with all the updates. And if you're going to do training, like, it's a really great way to stay on top of the things that are changing, because it changes all the time.
Absolutely. And here in Australia, it changes halfway through the year. You know, we go on holidays, and when we come back, Google, because, you know, the American year is mid-year to mid-year, calendar year, and ours is a full calendar year, and we come back and we think, whoa, what happened there? So, you know, I just have to remind teachers that changes will be made in the mid-year.
Yeah, the big changes are obvious. The things like Classroom now has a stream, like they didn't have 4 months ago. Like, the big ones are obvious, but the little ones are less obvious. And I forget the number of times, the number of iterations that Google make every year on our products. But if you work out the averages, it means, you know, sometimes products change in very subtle ways, like 2 or 3 times a day.
Good point. Yeah, you go looking for that button and it's not in the top right-hand corner. It's incorporated somewhere else.
It's not even so much buttons, because that's the obvious stuff, but it's behind the scenes stuff. The way things work sometimes subtly changes, and it's like just a matter of staying on top of things.
Becoming a Google trainer, will it help me become a better teacher? It certainly has helped me become a better educator, because it makes me go back into my use of technology and not using technology for technology's sake. Make it in such a way to enhance the learning for students. And certainly my PLN, my professional learning network, my personal learning network, and my my family learning network has grown, because I can go to a group and say, you know, how do you approach this problem? I don't know how to help my group. So it really cements very strong friendships there to help you develop your skills as a teacher. Just going off to the next one. Most likely I will be doing training sessions virtually. Well, as I said, I do trainings virtually. In 2009, my boss came to me and said, I want to be able to help teachers in the diocese. Would you help me set this up? And then it became a team of one. And and our platform was, sometimes Google, but a lot of Moodle, but now it's a nice mixture. And I can incorporate so many things into the platform that's used in the diocese. Darren's put here webinars in your own social media. I've got a school corporate account and my, a number of other accounts, but in my school corporate account, I have all my school videos and so forth. I batch file things. I don't do one video on a day. I will set aside a couple of hours, and probably 2 hours turns into 4 hours because I've got to get in the mood. Then you've got to get the lighting right and the microphone right and all your equipment right. And then I do intros. I do a number of intros and the imagery to go with that. And then I save all of those intros in a file, and then I save the outros in a file for my YouTube videos. And in the middle is the specific content. So when I come to do specific content each week, I just do this middle part. Jigsaw it together on a video editing tool, and then I have my library of tools. I do private sessions. I set up a Google Calendar, appointment slots, and they are published in the diocese, and people book in for those. I have a Google form that I need to know what they need, so I'm a little bit more prepared. And we have those sessions. They might run for 30 minutes. Some people book up for 2 30-minute sessions, so they have their hour, or they may only use 10 minutes of it. It may be just, look, I need to do this now. How can you help me? So I move to the pace, the rhythm of the people that I am, I'm training.
Yeah, so for the training sessions that are virtual, just be very cognizant of meeting fatigue. Everybody is experiencing that right now. So that's why preparation is key. You need to be very prepared to have the session go beyond the session that you're actually doing. So if it's just going to be 30 minutes that you're giving them, an hour that you're giving them, give them plenty of time to really expand on what you're training. That's why when Leslie said, you have your beginner and your intermediate, I actually call them I'm a Star Wars fan, so I call them my Padawan, Jedi, and Master training. So because Star Wars. So but after the training session, you need to make sure that these Padawans eventually become masters at their craft. So that's my tip for training. Oh, and another thing. Let's not forget that we don't have that very big projector in front of them because we're not doing face-to-face. People have really bad eyes sometimes, and they're not able to see those little icons. When you say, click on this icon, I train really old public school teachers sometimes. Some of them are retirable, and they would say, if I say, click on the blue share button at the upper right-hand corner of your screen, they don't get it. So I do have these Centra boards, like buttons made, so it's really big, and I actually just put it up in front of me like I was teaching kindergarten. I know that it may be a little bit of extra work to make those buttons, but it really does help that, oh, I see that button, you see this button, click this button. So it's easier to do it that way than to have them navigate like, I can't see that button she's talking about.
Yeah, and it's also like a stress. Sometimes they are focused right here, and they can't take their eyes away from that content to find that button. And it's calming. For you to do that, it's really calming. And people will laugh about it, and they're fine. It just settles the moment. So I really like that, Mary. I'm going to make a few of those as well.
I even have like a video on video off, just in case, you know, if I want to see their faces, I have a video on. They know that now. Like every time I train, if they see it at the beginning, it's part of my house rules. So when you see this card, you know what to do.
Good idea. The other thing too with teaching virtually, or even just making like short videos for people, like in that sort of screencast kind of mode, one thing you can do to develop your skills in that area I've found is like pick a skill you want to teach, like whatever it might be, and just record yourself doing a screencast of it, right? No one's going to see it, it's just for you. Record yourself doing it, right? Watch it back and then do it again, but in half the time it took you to do it the first time. Figure out what you didn't need to say the first time and trim it down. And once you've done that, you can try and trim it down again. You should be able, for most concepts that you're trying to get across to people, you should be able to do it in 2 minutes or less. And if you can't do it in 2 minutes or less, then you're taking too long. Or
provide 4 of those 2-minute series.
Right. Break it down, yeah.
Break it down, keep it short. Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. I should have thought of that. Thank you. We're running out of time, but I think this last one here is about, you know, how do I provide quality over quantity? People are stressed. They're doing a lot of things anyway, and here they are stepping up. They want to be trainers and do more. For me, scheduling and blocking time and batching tasks is really good. You know, I'll have a reminder come up on my Google Calendar, and it'll be a reminder for the reminder. I'm that person. So it'll say, don't forget to get this organised for next week. And then the next week comes along and this is your last reminder because tomorrow is the presentation. So, I mean, I'm that person. And it does help me instead of just like my heart missed a beat this morning when I had 35 minutes to pick up Darren's amazing work to make sure that I had all these questions and here's his presentation. And improving trainer skills as well is working in a team. You know, it's really great. I'd love to know what they were doing in the other rooms. I'll have to go and check. But it's really great. I couldn't have supplied the level of content and skill training on my own. But this team came together and said, I'll help. I'll take this room. I'll take that room.
I think creating your really good feedback form is really good. You need to tie it up to, firstly, your pre-workshop survey, and then tie it up again to the outline of your training. So always do that, because you need to get very specific feedback on what really worked. So always ask, like, what do you think worked? Why do you think it worked? Have that question in there, because that would really help you to improve the next time, the next iteration. Like I didn't go in here as a Google trainer at the beginning. I had to make the training in 2010 because there was no available material for me to use at that time. It was out of necessity that I started to become a Google trainer. And then moving forward, I just learned based on feedback, and I found that really works often and until now.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. It's, you know, sometimes, you know, we think everything's on the page there. I know what I mean. But when people come in and it's not as intuitive as you had hoped, it's not hitting the spot. So feedback is essential. And you saw those and we're going to ask for feedback at the end of this session, not this room, but the big session as well, because we need to grow our skills as well. So with that, I think we better move back to the main meeting room, which people are in there now waiting. So I'm going to go back in there now. So thank you so much. Thank you for being so patient. And we'll meet back in the big room.
Thanks, Leslie.
Okay, thanks very much.